Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Bully the Board NFL Weekly Board Meeting. As always, it's your boys, Kevin, Seth, and Steve. 13 weeks in the books. December football is here, and it's kind of ugly, but there's some exciting things going on for sure. So we're gonna break down all of it as usual. Stick around for more. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
Welcome back in, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. Kevin, Seth, and Steve with you. As always, please remember to give this video a like. Please remember to subscribe to our channel. We're putting out the weekly board meetings for viewers, subscribers, and would-be subscribers alike, no matter what. We're doing this every single week, breaking down the efficiency and analytical landscape for you all, breaking down model predictions, breaking down angles, other things that you guys hopefully, or maybe not hopefully, but potentially have not uncovered or known about. So trying to bring value, inject value into the marketplace all across the board. So that's what we're here to do every single week. A like and subscribe would be very much appreciated. So caveats out of the way, boys. Like I said, December football is here. Little playoff stakes. We're starting to get seeding implications. Even freaking NFL draft simulations are coming out already. So that's the point of the year we're at. So 13 weeks in the books, man. Give me Seth, your number one takeaway or take, I guess, 13 weeks into the season so far.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah. Before I get to the take, one thing I wanted to add to that beautiful intro was giving out all that information, but ultimately giving out winners because the model is on fire, 58% so far with a pretty big sample size. So just want to shout out to the model there. Biggest takeaway, I'm too late, and I know that you were on this preseason, Kevin, and I dilly-dallied a little too long. San Francisco is going to win the championship. I don't see how you stop them on either side of the ball. I don't care if they're in the NFC. In fact, I think that makes things easier because the NFC is not going to be a cakewalk. It's obviously top heavy, but they look so good. Now, our model, I don't want to overblow the Philly thing because I think there's some, you can see where Philly is defensively. I mean, this is a far cry from who they were last year defensively.
Definitely.
But yeah, but I think what they did and how they did it and kind of putting their whole resume in front of me, they look the strongest to me, especially with how the AFC is kind of coming into play. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that. The AFC is looking kind of like what we thought it would look like. But yeah, San Francisco looks damn good.
All right, batter up, Steve. What about you?
This shit ain't for the weak. Looking at just the number of quarterbacks again that have gone down this year. I mean, we got burned by that last year. It was a record, 60, so whatever, how many quarterbacks started a game.
I think
63 different people started at quarterback, or played quarterback. I think,
and this time around, it's looking pretty bad. I mean, it's looking at, was it the Patriots, Steelers? You get Bailey Zappi and Mitch Trubisky coming up there, so you saw Trevor Lawrence go down last night. You've got Aiden O'Connell, Jake Browning, Tommy DeVito, Desmond Ridder back from the grave, Jameis Winston, all these names, Joe Flacco, all these names, either making their first starts or coming back being resurrected, and this shit is wild. So I'm excited to see what this looks like going forward, just as a football fan, but loving the fact that we have a model now, because almost all these quarterbacks have data on them enough to model it out, so you can take a little bit of that uncertainty out of it and actually get some sort of guidance on where to go. So I'm really excited to see what happens the last few weeks.
I was just going to add really quick to what Steve just said. In some ways, we struggled last year, but one of the biggest things we learned, and I don't want to state this, but was thinking about how to handle these injuries and how to model out these situations more appropriately. And so we're so much better equipped to deal with this. I mean, there's nuance to it and there is not a right answer. I'm pretty convinced of that part, but we at least have an intelligent approach that we've tried and back tested to which quite frankly, we've already been doing all season. So it's a little bit more bookkeeping to keep up with who's in and who's out. But from a modeling standpoint, luckily we learned that lesson last season.
Yeah. And then what I was going to say, just to piggyback on Steve's point, December football, you see maybe the weather angles come into play. There's some gnarly weather forecasts for this coming games. Like there's a lot of low totals, but not only that, here are some potential matchups, starting quarterback matchups in the NFL this week. Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky. Ugh.
Barn burner. I believe
CJ
that is
Beathard.
the lowest. That is now the lowest NFL total ever.
I think it's 30, right? 30.5, 30 and a half.
Probably going lower.
So you got that Thursday Night Football to kick off the week. You got CJ Beathard replacing Trevor Lawrence versus Joe Flacco. Shout out Joe Flacco, though. He played well last week.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew Mania. He's got a flash in the pan type of stuff going for him versus Jake Browning. Okay. I mean, he balled out too. Give him credit. Give him credit. Small sample size, but still not who you want behind center long term. Baker Mayfield versus Desmond Ridder. Shout out Desmond Ridder.
Shout out Baker Mayfield.
Likely versus Aiden. Just mid city, baby, just mid city. And then Bryce Young versus probably Jameis Winston. Those are bad matchups. Those are by and large just bad. Not what you want to see. Not what you want to see at this point in the year if you're a fan of either one of those teams for sure. Yeah. But is what it is, man. You gotta play with the chips fall where they may, and you gotta play on. So. Yeah. All right. Let's break down some conference specific type stuff. So you led off with.
Can I ask a question though before we dive too deep? I want to ask Steve a follow up question here on the Cowboys. So last week, we were kind of on the opposite sides of the coin here about don't get fooled. I think your take was don't be fooled by Dallas. This is a fugazi run. They beat up on bad teams. They lose to good teams.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting words. I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth. Like Seattle is in this weird. Are they good? Are they bad? We don't quite know yet. They didn't cover. This was a really interesting game. It was a shootout. Seattle definitely showed us that they're not going to lay down dead here. They're pushing. But do you any updates from the take here, or is Seattle trending to be one of those bad teams, and this is just more further data that confirming what you already believe?
No. Yeah, I mean, I said on the show last week, and I said, hey, just like you said, do not be fooled. Dallas only beats up on sub 500 teams. They're not the real deal. They're going to be another first round playoff loss. Water is wet. And you said, what about Seattle? They got Seattle this week. And for me, if you go back one catch to the overall, you can see Seattle in that sort of, not bad, but not good, right? Good offense, bad defense kind of thing. And I said, I'm higher on Seattle, I think, than what the metrics show I should be, but I will give credit to Dallas for beating a Seattle team. And I sit here today, I give credit for Dallas for showing up and beating a good Seattle team. They almost blew it, but they did. They won. That's all that matters. They won.
And they didn't cover. They didn't cover the 9. They ended up closing at 9.5.
They didn't.
Yeah.
This one's not unfortunately model play going into this week, but I guess peeking forward a bit. Then what's your guys' take on the fact that the Cowboys are, as of the moment, 3.5 point favorites over the Eagles?
I think it's spot on. Oh, I see. We're still on the other side of the coin.
Go ahead.
The data put this number at -4. What we make the line. So that puts a little there is actually a little bit of value on taking Dallas. It doesn't meet our criteria. I was really, really hoping that we could get somebody nibble on that 3 at open, so we could have snagged even an expensive one. If we were able to get a -2.5, -120 would have been a great bet. But it just hasn't happened, and this is now moved to 3.5. So the model makes the number 4. I tend to agree with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a believer yet, but Seth, I am coming towards that side. I will give credit where credit is due. Dallas beat a really good Seattle team. They showed us what they're capable of, and ironically, it wasn't on the defensive end, right? Like it really wasn't.
At all.
Or I at least expect them to dominate. Now, obviously, they're in that upper quadrant where they're great on offense, great on defense. But I really feel they kind of, dropped the ball here against a Seattle team that really isn't that potent offensively, at least from a per play metric standpoint. Now, with that being said, if you said, hey, it was, it's kind of a bad example because Burrow's down, right? But if you said it was a Burrow-led Bengals that the Cowboys are facing this week and they were 3.5 point favorites, I would say, you know what? I believe the Cowboys will win this game, but I'm not quite there to accept that truth just yet. So
that's fair. I mean, if this kind of helps us lead into the NFC talk here, like I do think that the Eagles are a little artificially high. I mean, we can see where they're at defensively. They are just not dominant like they were last year. And offensively, we've seen some pretty interesting showings from them. I mean, if we just zoom back, the loss before they had to the San Francisco 49ers, which quite frankly, other than the first, I don't know, 2 drives where that game was close, it wasn't close after that. They lost to the Jets, which is gnarly to think about, especially how the Jets have been playing on offense. This is just reminds me so much of where we were last year, where the Eagles played the easiest schedule. Here we are.
Yeah.
They're still playing a more difficult schedule than last year, but this is still, I think they're the 17th easiest schedule. So they're still a median level of difficulty. They're not playing the hardest teams week in and week out. And Washington has kind of been a little bit weaker than, I don't want to say normal, but they're weak. Giants are weak. So yeah, I don't know. The NFC just seems like San Francisco's is just signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it kind of sounds like they're. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Sorry, I was going to say two points on that. So, half agree, half disagree, I guess, with it. So, have they played it, or what's their schedule been like? You could argue one way or the other. They are number 3 overall in total ELO rating, so that's not for nothing. But
okay,
also
that's a good counterpoint.
To the other side of things, I think we said this in passing 1 or 2 weeks ago, but how much of this team's results is as a result of positive variance? Is the 2023 Eagles basically a carbon copy of the 2022 Vikings? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe not quite.
Yeah, I don't know that things are like that crazy. Like, I mean, the Vikings were finding themselves in like 1% probability things happening. Like, they were down the most points ever and came back. The Bills just literally needed to not fumble on the goal line, and they fumbled it for no real reason. Like, things were happening to them that like God himself had to like basically talk about. Let's talk about a script. I don't even think you would take something holy to pull some of that stuff off.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, I mean, looking ahead again. So zooming out, and then this Cowboys matchup coming up for them. Pick a play-by-play metric. I mean, EPA per play, echo rates, EPA per pass. Like, the Cowboys are ahead of the Eagles, so it's tough for me to. And
Dak is playing really good. Like he's
1 and 1A with Purdy for co-MVP favorites, for what that's worth. Take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, he's playing efficiently. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we can zoom ahead and look at the QB volatility chart. I mean, he's number 2 to Purdy in terms of EPA per play efficiency. And then
look at him, he's more consistent than average.
Yeah, more
good
consistent
for Dak, man. For all the hate that Dak gets, I got a round of applause for Dak. Like, he's like, I don't know what we want from this guy. What more can this guy give us?
A ring?
So it was Kellen Moore all along.
First things first. So far, it looks like it. But I think the big Achilles heel, and maybe Steve would agree with this, is like the whole thing about bad teams, but more specifically playing from behind. And what their defenses allow them to do is play these games with leads that they didn't build offensively; they build defensively. Right. So what happens when you go down 14-0? Are they actually capable of clawing back? We haven't. Now they didn't play bad in that first Philly matchup, so I think that that's encouraging. But I mean, if shout out market makers, please, somebody in the market that's just sharp, grab up that Philly so I can get a minus 2.5 Dallas. I think it's a great bet. If I can get that at minus 110 or minus 120, I think that's a fantastic bet.
Yeah, and I will say real quick, that was one of the things, and I don't know if it's quite as extreme as the Vikings, but Kev, that was definitely one of my thoughts. Is it almost seems like this team is just lucking itself into wins, from a positive variance standpoint. I mean, you look at, they really should have lost that game to the Chiefs. I mean, that's one MVS catch away from being that, right. The Bills, another tight game, and I forgot there was one more game I forgot. They were really one call away from losing that game, and they kind of lucked their way out of that. But with that being said, to your point, Seth, about can the Cowboys play from behind and how are they winning? I think for me, that's the most concerning part, because we saw that against the Cardinals. I mean, you saw that against was that the Clayton Tune Cardinals at that point, or the Josh Dobbs Cardinals? I can't remember.
Dobbs.
It was a Josh Dobbs Cardinals at that point, but they got down, and Dak was doing his thing. Dak was doing his thing. They got down. All of a sudden, he couldn't really compete there. And so I guess for me and again, that's an anecdotal example to kind of fulfill my own bias and whatnot. But
Sure.
I think until proven otherwise, that's my emotional thing. And unless the model says this is a slam dunk threshold passing bet, I can't reason my way into that kind of gray area, 1 to 3% EV.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair. All right. But we were focusing a lot on the NFC there, and it is top heavy. I mean, the Lions are still there too. I mean, yeah, sure. They're continually to be measured, at least offensively, solid.
But I'm worried about their defense. Yeah, I'm worried about where they're going defensively.
Yeah,
they're headed back to where they were last year.
Yes, 100% right. And they just put a key guy on the IR, I think, on the D line today. So another blow to them on that front. So
and I know RAS and another service gave out. I think this opened at 4.5, -4.5 against the Bears, and they gave out +4.5 back in the Bears, and this now is sitting at 3.5.
Wow.
There's some there's some expensive threes, but yeah, you can get -3 now. So it's I don't know.
I already looked into it. We make the number 6, so we would need to get a 2.5. There is a small edge here. It's about a 3% edge. If you for all those people out there, you got the balls to do it. I need to see a little bit more value personally to do it. But if this gets to 2.5, I'm gonna have to die on that sword. This Detroit Lions does seem different in that they are figuring out ways to win games that they would have historically they would have pissed away. So they're doing Lion type things. Like last week, they got up, I think 24-0 or 21-0, and they let the Saints back in, but they won the game, right? They didn't figure out a way to lose that game. They're figuring out ways to win those games. And so I think that is something that is systematically different. And for me, I feel a little bit comfortable backing them, but yeah, I that team is concerning. That being said, in that division, can we talk about the Packers?
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out.
I mean, not shout out last week because they ruined the model play, but yeah.
But a win for our over 7.5. I've been getting in the lives, getting questions all week. What about Green Bay? What about Green Bay? And I've been fully transparent. I thought that bet was dead, and I don't want to come off like I know something that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
We saw value preseason. It looked good to start, and then it looked dead the last couple of weeks. And then the last 2 weeks, what I'm more confused about and perplexed about with Green Bay, they're doing this with an insane amount of injuries. They got a bunch of guys hurt. So I'm very confused how they're pulling these wins off, and kind of in dominant fashions, to be honest. That Kansas City game was never really close. I don't even think Kansas City was ever winning that game.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a good, this is not maybe a super hot take or whatever, but I think Jordan Love has punched up this year. He's punched out of his weight class, at least relative to expectations.
Yeah.
Almost across the board, almost he is a top 10 quarterback in terms of per play efficiency.
Yeah.
He's that dude, or has been at least recently. So he's a huge reason. I mean, I got to shout out to Jordan Love too.
Watson healthy is definitely played a big role. What I'm saying more so is as this team gets healthy, does this team get even better? I don't know that to be true. It's just, I find that the most interesting part of this is this is not a healthy roster. They have people all over, their injury report. I think they were 14 guys deep on the injury report last week.
Yeah, that's insane. As a Bears fan, what frustrates me the most is ever since LaFleur's been there, but really in general, but especially since LaFleur's been there, the Packers just always win in December. And I didn't really quantify this until I saw this, but the Packers have been 16-0 in the month of December over the last 4 years, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so they get hot at the right time. And I remember, was it last year? Oh man, Packers missed the playoff. It's Rodgers last year, and then they made that hell of a run. They almost got in. Right, that's just what they do. And I don't know how they do it, Seth. I really don't, because you're right. I mean, logically, there should be no way they're playing this well with as little as they have. And yeah, here they are.
Yeah, and I think they get to play the Bears one more time, which hopefully is a double dip for us. As far as we also have the under.
Let's hope.
Bears. I think we're 2 losses away from locking that bet in. By the way, so we're close. We're close there. I don't know that team is just so interesting.
Yeah.
All right, how about let's shift gears a little bit for the AFC, and then we'll zoom ahead here. So this one's interesting, or this conference rather is interesting because just as of 2 days ago now, you have or I guess yesterday, you have the injury to Trevor Lawrence, ankle sprain. Don't know how long he's going to be out, but that puts presumably a dent in their playoff seeding. At least they're probably going to make the playoffs at this point, but. Does that open the door for these mid-tier teams to get into the playoffs? And then, you have the top guys, let's call it the Chiefs still, even though they're coming off a loss, and the Ravens, and I guess at this point, the Dolphins. Those are the top 3 seeds, right? They got the number 1 seed at the moment, the Dolphins do?
Yeah.
Or the Ravens do? Okay.
Shout
out. Let's go. Fins up.
Fins way up. And, And who did we have? And we Super Bowl picks. We have in the AFC the Ravens and the Fins. So I mean, the AFC is kind of taking shape with where we thought they could be. And I have to say, Miami's defense seems to be. I mean, their offense started out so hot that it's hard to say that it's getting better. It's just maintaining efficiency. But their defense is really starting to come together. And unfortunately, they had that huge loss to the guy that tore his Achilles. But I mean, man, this defense is really kind of showing up week in and week out and play in and play out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that futures ticket for me, I don't know if you've looked at yours recently, Seth, for the
it's officially doubled. Mine's is officially doubled.
Shout out. Okay, mine is 70%.
Okay,
it's appreciated 70%, so not quite 100% yet, but it's trickling up.
For your Dolphins or for
the Dolphins, for the Fins, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Who do you guys? So I have one on Caesars and one on DraftKings, and my DraftKings one is worth more than my Caesars one, and then that reflects the odds they have for them to win the championship. But on both it's doubled, but on DraftKings it's done more. Where are you guys at? Do you know?
Mine's on Caesars.
Fins or for Ravens?
Oh, sorry, for Fins.
Oh, I unfortunately don't have any Fins.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. I've been left out.
Okay.
I do though. Actually, though, I think
I'm the only one. I checked this morning, Steve.
AFC.
I'm looking now. It is officially 100% appreciated. So.
Okay, let's go. Yeah. I do have Fins to win the AFC East at plus 400,
and that looks pretty damn good.
Yeah,
looks pretty.
But there is a very, very non-crazy scenario where the Bills can still win the AFC East. It's really not that crazy. Basically, the Fins got to lose to the Cowboys. Shout out to thumbs up. The Fins got to lose to the Cowboys, and the Bills have to win against the Chiefs, and they have to beat the Fins in the last week 18. I forget it's not that crazy. It's not that crazy. Sure. I think the Bills have to win like 4 games. And a couple of those key games are obviously against Miami, and the losses that Miami needs to happen are against pretty good teams. So yeah, that's the value of that ticket is almost worth 100% of what the payout is. And I'm intrigued. I have made 2 of them. I'm thinking about taking one off the table. But I would be selling myself short like 15%.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you should hold on to that. Now, I want to make a real quick comment going back to what you said, Kevin. I don't know that the Jaguars are safe to get into the playoffs without seeing how extensive this Lawrence injury is. Because let's not forget, the Jags are 8-4. Yeah, they're first in the AFC South, but the Texans are right behind them, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then the Colts. Let's not forget the Colts, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're both 7-5. So, to me, that's the division that's up for grabs. I would not feel safe at all if I'm a Jags fan.
Tank Dell, though, went down. Broken leg. I think that's huge. They've been getting so much production, not only from him, and then Dalton Schultz is still injured as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that team responds. But I'm with
Collins,
you.
Baby. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. No, very interesting. I mean, unfortunately, I don't listen to myself sometimes. But in the season preview, when we were talking about rookies, we said the tails are very difficult to price. We've unfortunately, I know I have some tickets for the negative end of the tails, which is them doing really bad. And we were right. We were right about Bryce Young, right? But then this is the other part of the tail for CJ Stroud, and here he's doing things that seem impossible. But this is the humanity of betting sports, and when you're modeling these things, which is how a lot of these numbers are generated preseason. You have no information, so it's very difficult to get these things right. And this is a great example. So note to self to remember that. And next year, when you see these angles, they seem crazy in the moment, but they are more probable than you realize.
Yeah. And to that point too, I mean, CJ Stroud, who leads the NFL in passing yards right now?
CJ Stroud. It's crazy.
A rookie, 13 weeks into the season.
Look how efficient he is.
He is
one
very
of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. Yeah,
and he's not dinking and dunking it either. He's got an average depth of target of almost 10 yards, number 3 in the league. So he's slinging it. So I mean, shout out, man. So yeah, feel bad for the Panthers. Just as one quick note on that, feels like a swing and a miss at the moment, but it's early, man. You got to give him
and they basically have given him zero weapons.
They're not doing him any favors.
I mean, he's I mean this tongue in cheek. I'm faster than Adam Thielen. It's they went and got a really old wide receiver that, quite frankly, has not a lot of speed. Mingo
I thought you were going to say a really
rookie.
white wide receiver. Yeah.
I mean, he's that as well. The only thing is, I don't have I have that in common with him, so I don't get the edge there. Mingo's a rookie, so he's I don't know, coming into his role is even really fair, but yeah, I mean, how do they build around him? Now it's much more difficult to do that when you no longer have a first round pick. So that's the aspect of it, and then the coach that drafted you has already been fired, so not a great way to kind of start your NFL career. But yeah, hopefully he's resilient, because I mean, can we talk about, though, the other Alabama quarterback, Mac Jones?
Whew.
Yeah. People have been asking me, is New England tanking? And my take on that is, how can they be tanking when they're holding teams to 6 points? If you're holding teams to 6 points, that's a really hard thing to do. And how many games do you win if you hold the other team to 6 points? It's a pretty high number. I think that's how bad this offense is. Talk about a team with no wide receivers, and then their running back went down. I mean, this house is on fire, and I think gasoline just got poured onto it. Now, what does that mean? I don't think they're going to fire Bill Belichick midseason. I think that just doesn't make sense. There's no point. You're going down with the ship. There's nothing, there's nothing that's going to change now, right? If you want to restart in the offseason, fire him or let him retire or whatever, trade him. But yeah, I don't know. That may become an auto fade team here pretty soon, because I am uncertain how they can get worse offensively.
They made a conscious decision to go for Mac Jones, which you can see in the top left quadrant here. Per play basis, still very bad, but to go to Bailey Zappi, who is he small sample size for this season, still relative to Mac Jones for sure, but effectively the worst in the league and consistently bad for the opportunities that he's been given. So it's how bad are things internally? What's the opinion of Mac Jones in that building? There was reports that he quote unquote lost the locker room a few weeks ago, things like that. So it's dire there for sure, man.
If I'm Mac Jones, I want out. Get me the fuck out. And whether it's delusional or not, I'm just telling myself, I had a hell of a rookie season. I know I can play in this league. I just need to get to a team that has weapons and an offensive coordinator that actually can do some things.
Presumably, if Belichick is gone, I think that's a real likely second move, so to speak. They move on from him, give him a fresh start type of thing. 100%.
Yeah, and he's still on a rookie deal. I mean, this could be a really great pairing for another team. So I don't know, and I've always said I struggle with this because we have now 3 data points from Mac Jones, or 3 seasons. One of them is really good and 2 of them really bad, but we have these scapegoats for both of them. And at what point do you just get rid of the scapegoats and say, no, Mac Jones is bad versus no, there's a reason why he's bad. And the one season that you saw that he's good was a fluke. I don't know. I'm just not there yet. I mean, that team we saw last year was just made zero sense. And the minute he could go. Jacoby Myers left. A bunch of teams left that team, and they didn't really. I mean, their big wide receiver signing in the offseason was Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean,
Yippee!
who basically did nothing on Kansas City. I mean, he caught a big play in the Super Bowl, but before that, he had very little production, and that was their big move. So I don't know. It's the GM aspect of what Bill Belichick has put out there is definitely in question.
For sure. Weird stuff, man. Weird stuff going on. It's going to be, I don't know. There's always fascinating storylines going into the offseason, but that is top of my list as far as storylines. What happens with Belichick in New England? Because changes got to be coming.
Got to trade him, right? If assuming he wants to play or he wants to coach, like you're telling me Carolina won't do. Like they'll trade you to the second round pick.
Yeah, you'll get something for him for sure, but if they keep things status quo next year, I think that would be probably the biggest surprise, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. How about status quo, though? Model keeps on winning, baby. Keeps on winning. So another winning weekend, bringing the year-to-date. I think this is updated unless it's updated on the next slide. So it's not 32. Updated yet. But 3 wins, 1 loss. I never did feel comfortable enough, and I never did take the Saints. Did either one of you guys?
I nibbled for a very small nominal amount. There was a late move. There was a late move actually that bought the 4 down to the 3.5. There was a lazy 4 out there minus 110, actually minus 109. I went ahead and took it. And quite frankly, it was not a bad bet. It looked bad, but it ended up closing. That game ended up closing a lot closer and was definitely not a dead bet for pretty much the whole second half.
For sure, yeah.
I think at one point it actually was covering.
I know, which was wild because at 21-0, just like that in the blink of an eye, I was like, "Geez, it's gonna get bad, real fast." But
yeah, I didn't take a pregame, but I did nibble in a live line money line when they were making that comeback, bringing my live line NFL money line bets to 0 for infinity and 2. So
how do you push? There's been 2 ties this season.
No. I mean, like infinity plus 1. Infinity plus. I'm so bad.
Even plus 2.
I've exceeded infinity. I'm breaking barriers.
Shout out.
Yeah, for real.
Hey, speaking of shout out, can we give a shout out to the Bengals and Jake Browning? Because this is the one I felt so good about, only because, to your point, Seth, he's being modeled as a rookie. And you just needed Browning to play like an average rookie against a Jags team that it's good, but in my opinion, not great. And that boy showed out. So congrats. Yeah. Now I'm not saying I'm a Bengals Browning, bandwagon fan going forward. I'm just saying I think that was a good spot for them. And I'm glad the model saw value on that.
Yeah, and this thing moved all the way to 10. So from a CLV standpoint, the market
wasn't good.
Disagreed. But they were wrong here. I mean, the biggest thing we've been busy on TikTok this week, talking to the people about, markets and things like that. But, the one biggest thing that, I've been trying to impart on the people is fundamentally what market makers basically are just a market clearinghouse for professional bettors. And what and how lines get set is basically the professional sports betting community just betting against each other. Those are the people that are informed. Those are the people that are buying and selling, the bets. And, this person thinks this and it's informed and they have a winning record and it moves because of that. And then these other people come along and maybe they agree, maybe they disagree. But fundamentally, that's what's going on. Now, in general, you want to see the market agree with you. But for where we're at with what we do, we want to see that in the vast majority. But it's not so concerning when we see it on 1 or 2, in a week. Because in the aggregate, we're seeing it on a larger sample. But this is a good example where I think the market just got they got the idea wrong of how to model Browning. Like, instead of treating him more similar like a rookie, I think they were probably just only using, I think he had 1 start.
Right. Yeah. So
49ers.
So 49ers was, I want to say sweat free. The first few drives was like, all right, this is gonna be close, or it's looking iffy. But then boom, just like that, absolutely took off and played to how they're effectively being measured, which is the best team
Yeah, the best team
in the NFL right now. So that one was easy, relatively sweat free. Chiefs, fortunately, yeah, that one would just didn't make sense to me. This is another one where the market, somewhat to a lesser extent, disagreed with us. I think
I'm telling you, go back and look at the team data on the website, or go look at Robbie's stuff. You're going to be surprised how evenly matched Chiefs Green Bay offenses are. Like, the only reason our model had us take that was because Patrick Mahomes is in that next level tier quarterback from the data. Like,
yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, just use an EPA per play here. I mean, with the pass, effectively the same, and then I mean,
they almost have the exact same
success
rate, echo rate. Like,
yeah.
So I'm not surprised that the market saw that, because especially if you got a 7, like if you got a +7, like that was a great bet, and that was right at open, and which is why it moved to 6.5. And we thought, oh shit, this is a good opportunity. It ended up getting as low as 5.5, but then there was some sharp money that came in late that put this to 6. So we were not in bad company, and that bet it never really was alive, but I would take that 100 times out of 100. I think if you can get Mahomes on the right night in Lambeau, and there was a number of injuries that ended up going against us, but whatever, I'll take it as the one loss this week. But overall, the model marches on almost at 58% this season so far, which is I'll take it. And we're getting a bigger and bigger sample size.
Yeah, and not to mention, there's a number of questionable calls in that game too.
Yeah,
especially towards the end. Non-PIs, questionable calls here and there. So I'm with you.
We march on, baby. We march on. Week 14 is upon us. So we got a few more plays we got for the model that we'll run through here. And maybe one other caveat, or maybe one other no play that's likely with the Jets here, because their QB situation.
We got to talk about the Packers and the Jets and the 49ers.
Yeah, their team situation is just totally foobar. So here's the card for week 14. All right, we have Steven, do you have the full list ahead in front of you by chance?
I'll get it right now.
The picks page. Let's run through them real quick, and then we'll break down some game specific matchups as well. So it's I mean, at first glance, it's interesting because you said you want to talk about the Packers a little more in depth, the Jets, and who else, Seth?
49ers.
Niners. Okay, so there's some interesting plays, and I think even the Saints are interesting too for different reasons. But
that one's gross. Gross.
All right, you want some on the fourth? You want to list off the games from the picks page?
Let's go top to bottom, list the games, and then we'll get into the matchups as we go here.
Okay, all right. So we've got Green Bay -6. We have Saints -5.5. Winston must start. We have Minnesota -1.5, and we have Miami -12.5. And I don't see. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. So we'll just talk about Jets. So right now we're modeling Zach Wilson to start. We were modeling, was it Boyle?
Right.
He got cut, right?
Right.
So he's no longer on the team. So he's for sure not starting. There is rumors, and I'm not sure how you even get this rumor, like how this actually becomes a rumor, that Zach Wilson, he was asked to start and he said, no, I'm good, which I'm not even sure that like how that's a thing. But this to me feels like a reason to just, it makes zero sense to try to, this is very similar to, weirdly in my mind, when we were trying to figure out if we should bet Washington last week, where the model really liked it, but it felt like a systematic issue. This feels like a systematic issue. Now, weirdly, the market actually bought it down. So there was some buyers on the Jets today at 6.5. I think this thing is bought down to 5.5, if I'm not mistaken, at Circa. So there's buyers of the Jets, and maybe we should be too, but this just feels like what's going on. And like, at what point does that defense just say, fuck it? We're holding teams. We're playing our asses off. How many games can they go out there and hold a team to less than 14 points and lose? At some point, the bottom is going to fall out of this team. And then with this rumor, it just feels like that this may be the breaking point. I have no way to analytically prove that. But the one good thing about being on our side of the fence versus the book is we don't have to bet every game. We only have to bet games where we believe we have an edge. And this to me feels like one of the bets where let's take the money off the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I mean, we talked about this before. How do you? There are things you try to model. There are things you can't model, and there's things that you don't know. And I think this is one of the ones where, yeah, we know there's no way to model the effect of a locker room. But man, this sounds horrible, right?
This
And even
sounds
this
bad.
rumors, yeah, I mean, even if the rumors aren't true about Wilson starting, which I'll be honest, I wouldn't blame him, to a certain extent. Like this dude's just getting beat up left and right. The team sucks ass. And so, I hear him on that. But, regardless to your point, Seth, I think the only thing, if you're on the defensive side of the ball, you're playing for yourself at this point, right? You're playing for that next contract. You're playing for that next endorsement. Like I don't know how you buy into this team for everything you just said. So yeah, this is weird, man. There's just too much going on for me to feel comfortable touching it, even though, the EV from a strictly model standpoint is so high. I have no faith in this, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. So
And then we have the Niners on there. I presume, I didn't double check this myself. Maybe you did, Seth, but does it have to get through the 10 or get to a 10 for it to be value?
Through the 10. It has to get through the 10 for us to get enough value. The
Okay.
reason I put it on here is Ras gave this out. This thing opened at 12.5 and it is now at 10.5. This thing has moved to 2.5 points, and we're only one moderately priced bet. We're on a Tuesday from going through the through the 10 to get a 9.5. This thing gets in 9.5. It is a nuke blast. Obviously bet responsibly here, but it is a great bet. I guess I should put it that way. Maybe not a nuke blast from a unit standpoint, but from a great bet standpoint, if you see a 9.5, I don't care if it moves to 8. It's a good bet. From where we make the number. I mean, we got this at 6.5 2 weeks ago when the 49ers played Seattle. This is now inflated to 6.5. You can see where the model puts the number at 12. I think Ras is making a huge mistake there. I listened to some of their rhetoric today of why they believe that, and they're saying that power ratings are just too inflated with the 49ers. They're not as good as the power ratings are making them be. Disagree. I don't see, whatever. I'm willing to go down with that ship. So just 9.5. I mean, I can give you my perspective. If I see a 9.5, I don't care if this thing's minus 120, it will be bet. And I don't care if it's late in the week, I will be taking it. I think it's a good bet. Now, barring any crazy injuries, but I've been scouring. Obviously, the injury report doesn't come out until tomorrow, but I can't find any rumors of anybody hurt. So I think from what Ras is saying, they just think that power ratings have been too inflated. I don't know what the fuck that means, because most power ratings are data driven.
Exactly.
Ras is very respectable, so I don't want to be disrespectful, because obviously they're good at what they do and they have an angle, and they obviously have made a lot of money on those with that information. This is where I just disagree. I think they have it wrong. The one thing I want to talk about, though, if we can go to the top of the page, is the Packers. You'll see a 20% edge here. You may be thinking to yourself, that's a lot of edge. And you'd be right. So I've been playing around with this. So this is just what you get when you just take kind of.
They're the first game up. So let's
talk
just
jump into it. Okay, so where does this 21 come from? So you can see it makes it 12. How do we get to a 12? Okay, well, the way we model our quarterbacks is we use all of the team data. We use the quarterback raw EPA, either both the rolling average of 15 games and their career. So you can see where Love is over his career and then the last 15 games. I mean, he's above average. He's, adding points. The trick here, though, is from the starts standpoint of it, he is now at 8 games. I think this is an away game. I believe this is in New York, if I'm not mistaken. So this is his 8th away game. And what that means is we use the first 7. We categorize you as a rookie. So this is his first data point, or basically the best way to say it is game 7 is his first data point that it's reading for him. So it's going to inflate the number based off of that one game. So it's basically got a 1 game sample there. And he did really good in that game. So it's a bit of an inflated number. So then you ask yourself, okay, so that's what happens with using the 1 game. Well, what if we use all of his data? Okay. The problem with this is these are his rookie games. And there's a reason why we call rookies rookie, is because we kind of want to blend that average. We don't really want to punish a rookie for being bad, or in Purdy's case, treat him like he's Tom Brady, week 5. So what do? We put those in there. But if we use all of his available data, so we get rid of that rule, it makes the number 3. So you're saying that there would actually be money on, you should be taking the Giants. Well, that feels uncomfortable. Okay, so then door number 3. Well, door number 3 is, okay, well, what if we just call him a rookie again? What if we just update our logic and we just say all rookies are, 8 or less starts? Okay, then it makes the number 6. So this one's tricky. Based off what we saw against Kansas City, based on what we saw the week before,
yep.
I think that this does feel like a good bet. We're seeing a little bit of positive reinforcement. This number we got at I got a 6, I believe. Did you guys get a 6?
I got a 6.5.
Okay. Steve, I think I got a 6 here. This is now moved to 6.5 and 7. So we are seeing early movement, and I think probably if I'm not as crazy, I think that the true number is probably 7. If you were to blend kind of all of those numbers together. So you blend a -3, a -6, and a -12, you're going to get right around a 7. And I think that that's where this number is going to go. And I think maybe you get as high as 7.5 and it probably gets bought, but I think we end up closing at 7.
Right. Yeah. So point well taken. I mean, we've said this off and on a couple times too, but yeah, you see 21% EV. I mean, you never have the edge that you think you have.
Yeah. And the disturbing thing about this is regress to the market. That's how inflated that raw number is. But it's because of this one sample. We're talking about a one game sample that's inflating this number. So you be the judge. Is this signal or is this noise? I think it's a combination of a lot right now. But we know if we alter the signal right now, if we alter it, we also know there's noise in that standpoint. Why? Because who he is as a rookie, especially a lot of that data is coming from early this season, and then when he's had weird games that he's played when he was like literally just coming off COVID toe and all these other weird stuff, like those numbers are not really representative either. They're also not representative of who he's been this season. Only some of them are representative of who he is this season. And then if you fully treat him like a rookie, I think that's the closest estimate, and you make this number 6, which basically would say there's little to no edge.
Right. I mean, one other thing to not brush under the rug or anything, but at the moment, although it's not a ton of movement, nothing's moved through the 7, of course, but the market is at least not disagreeing with us, and they're agreeing with us ever so slightly. I mean, there's a couple of 7s at some like Bovada, like an offshore book or whatever. So none of the market makers have 7s yet. Actually, I take that back. Bookmaker is now at a 7. So would not be surprised to see if it.
And some of the retail books are now at 7.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I mean, I take that as a sort of North Star, if you will. At least that's what I'm also kind of hanging my hat on, because you're right. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, you get a couple of different outputs or scenarios modeling different aspects of this. So,
well, remember, everybody else is in the same boat we are. How do you model a player with few starts? At some point, you got to take the throttle off. You got to convert somebody from rookie to non-rookie. I don't know what other people are doing. The number and the logic we're using is not arbitrary. This is what optimizes output. So there's that. I will point out there that comment you just made about going through the 6.5 to the 7. That's a huge boost in EV. Like the probability of covering, if you think the true number is 7 and you can get a 6.5, is a huge boost. It's probably about 4.5% expected value, and just in that little pop right there. So even though it seems kind of small, it's actually huge. It's a huge signal. Now, the problem is it's not a mature move. We want to see this thing move ubiquitously to 7 at all of the market makers. And if we do that by Wednesday, Thursday, that's a pretty strong signal.
Yeah. Agreed. But maybe the one thing that our model or others out there probably will have a hard time picking up on is you mentioned it kind of offhand or in passing here, but I guess I'll call it the trend, or how this team, the Packers that is, has been playing recently relative to the first couple of weeks of the season. Because yes, we use a rolling average, but even in that, maybe a lot of those other sophisticated models out there do this, but is there more weight given to last week's game versus 2 weeks ago versus 3 weeks ago, et cetera? So how do you account for what is happening behind the scenes? How do you account for things like Packers and Matt LaFleur know how to win in December, if that's even a quantifiable thing, right? Undefeated in September. All these other,
or is it even a thing, right? Because
is it even a thing? Right? You don't know. Probably not. But
yeah. Well,
and
I know some of the top guys, they use an exponential decay function. So they weight the last week game at 100%, and then they decay that usually to a maximum of 73%. So it'll go from like a 100%, then 2 weeks is 93%, and it's an exponential decay all the way to decaying it to that the data go to a 73% weight. We don't do that right now. So we're kind of waiting. We're weighting all games equally, but we are very much so heavily weighting the last game for his contribution to who he is as a quarterback, as a category, which we know with playing with fire you can get some gnarly mistakes, but this one is this is the way I'm approaching it. If you blend those numbers together, blend to 12, blend to 3, blend to 6, you get something a little bit greater than 6. Yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah. So it's 6 or 6.5 of what we got it. I think we're in a good spot still. So
yeah, I agree.
All right. Trucking along here. Saints at the Panthers. Again, our number says this is -7 in favor of the Saints. Opener was at 5.5 here. So this one obviously assumes, Steve mentioned it, that Winston starts.
Which looks to be almost 100% at this point. I mean, Carr is in the concussion protocol. He also hurt his shoulder or elbow. I'm not sure, but he got messed up, which screwed up Steve's money line, because that drive was looking nice until they ended his life there. That was a pretty brutal hit. And Jameis Winston just could. I was very surprised because they were able to move the ball through Taysom and running it, and they just threw the ball 3 times. I was quite surprised. The reasons why this bet is scary is Winston. The reason why this is a good bet is you're going to get Olave obviously played last week, so he's going to stay back, and then you may get the number 2 wide receiver back, as well as a few pieces on defense. So I think that those things you can't necessarily hang your hat on as exactly happening, but when you show expected value on top of that already, and those things can be trending in your direction, I think that makes a little bit of a better bet. Now, that's being said, the early market is disagreeing with us. They're buying up Carolina.
Right.
They bought up Carolina's last week from this 5.5 down to 3 in favor of Tampa Bay, and they were able to cover. Yeah, we'll see. This one is weird to me. In some ways, I love it. In some ways, I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is a bet against Bryce Young. I mean, and for everything you said, I think this is one where you have so many, there's so much variability or just variance that can happen on the offensive side for the Saints because of Jameis. And then people call it the Jameis Winston experience, right? You get the good, you get the bad, and you just kind of deal with it both. I mean, the first touchdown he threw was a tip, the ball that should have been picked. Ended up that's a touchdown, right? I'm really shocked they don't commit more to Taysom Hill. So you can't really control for that. I mean, you model what you model, and the data show what the data show. And I guess what I'm banking on being more consistent is just Bryce Young not being that dude. I mean, we had shout out to Seth and Unabated in the simulations. We had the player props. Look at the pass funnel teams, and one of the props, the only one that lost was the Bryce Young over completions, 19.5, and he ended up with 15 or something like that. So
he had 16 completions, but he 16. Threw the ball 32 times.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So the hypothesis was right. Bryce Young struggles.
Yep.
Right. And I'm banking on that being the more consistent factor with all the questions on New Orleans side, that he's just not going to show up. And no matter who's at quarterback for the Saints, they can muster up enough to cover, a 6-point spread.
Yeah. I mean, even if he does show up, if he just plays to what he's been playing, we're in good shape. He's the worst. He's bottom of the barrel, number 32 in the league in terms of EPA per play.
Until he's not, though. And the Saints team feels
but there's no
that will implode. This Saints team has just done nothing like they should be doing. The Carr experience really hasn't worked. Obviously, here we go with the Jameis Winston experience of it. Luckily, you're going to get a full week of offense. But I mean, remember, this is a team that was a 10-point favorite against the Bears. They were in the red zone like 4 times and came away with like 3 points. I'm not look. I bet it. The model likes it. This one does scare the shit out of me though, and it's not this. This scares the shit out of me in a unique way where I don't feel like it's for sure going to lose. But if I can easily see a scenario where the Saints shit the bed and Carolina wins, and this is, the second win that they get.
Okay, maybe. I mean, yeah, I think
this defense.
I'm with Steve on this one.
That dominant.
No, it's not. I'm with Steve on this one, but I mean, I don't expect the Saints to show out. Although I do want to. I'm gonna poke around here as the week goes on. For Winston, like some of his player props, like longest completions or number of completions, things like that. Because the Panthers are really bad at defending the pass. But you look at the Panthers echo rates, 34%. That's number bad. 31 in the league. That's bottom of the barrel.
It's 32 the Jets.
I don't know off the top of my head, but you're probably it's probably the Jets or maybe the Giants. Saints on the flip side of that, they're number 10 in echo rate allowed. So I think you have to go back and look at some of the staples of how the Panthers could cover this game. And I'm not really sure. Like there's nothing. Yes, the Saints might implode. They might have a weird thing, whatever. But I don't know. I'll put my eggs in that might basket. I mean, I'd much rather put my eggs in the on this side of it where we know we're betting against a bad team. Period.
Yeah, it is the Jets. I just confirmed.
Okay.
Classic.
Shout out Zach Wilson, baby, and Boyle. But anyway,
I don't disagree with you guys here. I just more than average. The Saints can just mess this up.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
Fair. I mean, we don't got to cover 2 scores though. We just need one. So
I mean,
he might get none. So
yeah. I mean, honestly.
All right.
This one.
I have a question. This one is very interesting to me because for different reasons. So our number says it's 3. Spread was -2.5. Now we got a -1.5. So market has agreed with us to an extent here so far, which is good. But
large extent. Move that 2. You have to.
Is it? Wait, has it moved to 3 yet?
Look! I got it there for you. 3.
Oh yeah, you're right. If I open my eyes. So even better.
This is a huge signal for us. Now, that being said, it's early. So let's just hope we don't see a bunch of money come now down crashing in on Raiders. But yeah, this is a good early move that really, really, really is what we'd like to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially
but I want to get you guys' opinions on something. So we have a Vikings future under 8.5 wins.
Yeah.
Right now, I got it on FanDuel. You can cash it out for basically 8% more than what you bought it for. So not much at all.
Hey, tell that to the S&P.
Shout out. But I mean, looking at what the model is predicting for this game, 1 score, field goal game. Yeah. But projecting and looking ahead to their schedule the rest of the way too, I don't know. Should I? I'm thinking about touching that Vikings and cashing it out. They're giving me the yips for more ways than one.
Do you have the schedule pulled up?
Yeah, I do.
We know they play the Raiders, and a model saying they win this game. So that brings us. It's over. Under 8.5, right?
8.5 wins for the Vikings, correct?
Yeah, right. So we got to get. They have 6 right now, so they got to get 3 more wins in order for this thing to lose.
They got to go 3-2. They play the Bengals next week.
So we're saying
on tap.
But we're saying if we take this on face value, we're giving them 1 win here.
Correct.
Okay? So they got to get 2 more. The Cincinnati Bengals looked good last week, but
who knows?
You want to call? I don't know.
High variance.
You want to call that?
We'll see.
High variance.
Lions. Tough. Going to be tough.
Divisional game. I think they need to win that. So I'm gonna go Detroit. Detroit will be favored in that game.
100%. And then they have the Packers, week 17. So that's going to be a very interesting double dip situation for us.
Very important. Yes.
And then last week of the season, Lions again, which depending on how things break, what I was projecting or thinking about is how much do the Lions have to play for at that point? Could they be
Well, if
resting
it
a lot
keeps
of guys?
sliding and the market keeps, I mean, Rass is giving out, bets against them. I mean, that could be
Maybe.
tighter than we think.
Maybe.
I don't think
Anyways.
you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy for wanting to cash that thing out.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a reason why they're giving you a cash out, though.
Right, exactly. Right. I mean, because you're taking the inverse bet that it's not going to happen. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Kev. I think they likely split the Lions series. I think they lose to the Packers, and then again we're giving them the Raiders win. It comes down to Browning and the Bengals, and I guess I'm not really. It's a coin flip game for me. It's a coin flip game. So yeah, I get both sides, but I don't know, man.
Well,
I guess gamble, right?
Look at it this way, though, from a standpoint,
Yeah.
Kevin. If you're going to, and I'm presumably you've already bet this. This is the bet for you right here. If you win this, it covers whatever happens if you lose. So to me, it's just you have some edge here. The market's agreeing. Okay, so and this, let's say it does actually cash. You win the money there. Presumably that covers your ticket, your futures ticket.
Yeah.
So if it loses and it still has the upside of winning.
Yeah, this is fair. So I'm just a little conflicted on it right now. I do want to caveat for this obviously assumes Josh Dobbs starts, and there was scuttlebutt.
Really good point. Yes, really good point.
There was scuttlebutt in their bye week of whether or not they're going to move on from Dobbs or give someone else they promoted someone from the practice squad. I forget the guy's name, whoever it was, but I have not seen anything official yet. I've heard some rumors that they're going to lean to stick with him, but if Dobbs does not start, presumably this is a hard no bet.
It's a hard no bet. It's the guy that he was also on IR. He went on IR, not exactly the same time Jefferson went on IR, but they're both coming back. So I don't know if this guy's truly a rookie. I forget his story, but yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. We'll have to. I'll model that out if that ends up being the case.
Is it Ripien? Ripien?
Yeah, Ripien. Yep. Yeah.
Ripien.
So does that make sense strategically? So why do you trade for Dobbs?
Yeah, that makes
sense. Is that Ripien is the guy but I can't remember how has Ripien started any games? He must have, right?
He must have, yeah. I don't know when. I think he started with the Jets a couple of games.
No, I don't mean just in general. I mean this season on the Vikings. Did he play after?
No,
he must have started once. He would have played when Cousins went down, and then maybe the week after, and then he would have got hurt because I know he's coming back off of IR. But point being here, you knew he was the guy all along, and then you went and traded for Dobbs. Dobbs must be very cheap. I have not looked into that, but he must have an insanely cheap. If that's truly the strategy, where it was like, oh yeah, we're just going to rent this guy for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
I mean, the Cardinals sold high on him. Frankly, I mean, he had a couple of games where he looked good. Frankly, and the Vikings were desperate.
But he just looked good on the Vikings. He didn't look so good last week.
We talked about this when the move happened too. Like Josh Dobbs has this weird ability to like be really good with a new team, and then he gets figured out, and then he becomes just mid-city. And teams are like,
this is a new team, baby. Justin Jefferson's coming back this week.
That's a huge deal. But but still, man, like someone's got to get him the ball consistently and accurately. And if it's not him,
fair. Was Hawkinson out last week?
Are we sure it's not Nick Mullins?
It could be. I honestly.
Yeah, you might be right.
Brett Rippin is definitely a guy, but he may not be at all the guy we're talking about.
Yeah. Fact check us on that one. You might be right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so this one feels weird to me.
What's up,
Steve? Did we get anything? Do you have some data on this guy?
On Mullins?
Mullins?
Sorry, what's up?
Mullins, yeah, we don't give a fuck about Rippin if he's not. We just made that up.
Oh, damn! I'm sorry.
No, I don't mean. Sorry, I don't know that was aggressive, but I just mean like
no.
Like if he's not on the team, whoever the guy is, that is the backup.
I was looking at it earlier. I couldn't figure it out, but Anyways, bottom line,
No,
if Dobbs doesn't
definitely
start,
Nick
whoever's
Mullins.
behind him, okay, it
Wait,
is Nick
who is
Mullins.
it?
Shut up.
It is Nick Mullins.
Hold on, Brett Ribbon's on the Rams. Let's just clear that up. That's where he's at.
Okay.
That's who he played for. Yes,
Okay.
it's Nick
R.I.P.
Mullins. No. And I'm pulling up stats right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And he has not played this year, per Pro Football Reference.
All right.
Interesting.
Not started. Sorry, not started.
Not started. Yeah.
All right.
So it'd be weird.
Nonetheless,
I guess you're just wanting to get reps because aren't you saying by this you're like, we think that he's better than Dobbs, and you're also willing to risk the season, or do you think Dobbs is that bad all of a sudden?
the comment that I read, I believe this is on ESPN, was that they are looking to play the quarterback that best maximizes Justin Jefferson. Read between the lines. What does that mean? They don't trust Dobbs and to consistently and accurately deliver the ball to him.
Or is this?
If that's the one thing that Nick Mullins does better than Dobbs,
but he's never even started, so it's like, but isn't this double? This is just double talk to me.
Maybe,
whatever,
but he's at least
like,
been on that team. He's got the sort of unquantifiable chemistry, if you will, with Jefferson. Like
to me,
that's my only rationale.
This is just coach talk. I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do, so it makes it harder for you to understand what we're going to do with a week back, with having Jefferson, who's going to start, what's the game plan going to be, how are they going to attack this. But this makes to me, if this guy's never started, that doesn't seem to make sense. But I'm okay. Shout out.
Hey,
look, I mean, if we've learned anything, they need to call and get Brett Rippon on this team.
Should have signed Flacco.
They went and got Carson Wentz. So I
don't think
Rippon must have been. He probably was cut.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about this on here, but you realize like my diabolical plan of the Stetson Bennett thing almost happened. And the only reason it didn't happen is because Stetson Bennett's away from the team, which we still don't know why. But he was injured for those couple weeks, and it would have been Stetson Bennett to come in, just like I said, midseason, injures Stafford. He would have been lighting it up. They might not have ever went back to Stafford.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. One of the great unknowns of this season. We'll never know,
you know what? And I bet that on DraftKings.
Classic.
I donated.
Classic.
Come on, man.
All right. Last one up here on the slate. Week 14. We got the Dolphins and the Titans, baby. Our number says it's 14. The opener was at 13. We got this at 12.5. Yes. That's what you need to get it at once you move to. If you get it at a 13, it technically doesn't meet the 4% criteria, but there is still value on the Dolphins at that point. But correct me if I'm wrong, but do you guys feel a different way about this one? Because I feel pretty good about this one.
Pretty good. 12.5. DraftKings, you sleep at the wheel. You should do better. Stop limiting people. Just get better lines and move quicker. You had all the market makers had a 13 up, and you just wanted to be greedy. This is what happens when you get greedy, man. You get taken advantage of. Yeah, I mean, take a look there at the defensive EPA per play for the Titans, and we're using the 15-game rolling average, which is better than how actually bad they are in just the 13-game sample that they've been playing.
Yeah.
So we're giving them more credit defensively than, quite frankly, they deserve. You can see offensively with Levis, like this team is struggling. Now he went out there and gave it his best last week. I mean, he was getting flipped upside down and doing some wild stuff, but that's a very different offensive system. And although Minshew can throw it around, they're nowhere near as efficient. And that took a number of block punts and special teams plays in order to keep the Colts in that game. So this is a game where Miami, they got to do what they should do, though, right? 14-point spreads ain't just the easiest thing in the world to do. But this number, I think, feels pretty comfortable, especially at the 12.5. We can have some weird thing happen, still cover at the 13. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of logical sense. And if this is now already moved to 13.5, and I think I've now seen some 14s in the market, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if you guys have Unabated.
I'm checking as we speak. Yeah, I'm checking as we speak right now, and market makers still have 13 or 13.5.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, I can't find a good reason other than the the dreaded double-digit 2-score cover that we need to hate this one.
But
frankly.
you know who's done it? Who's done it all season? Miami. Okay, yeah. So Circa had this at a 14 yesterday. It did get back down to 13.5 and then 13. So there are purchasers, so to speak, at the 14. It looks like.
Sure.
We think that's what the number is, so I'm not that surprised, but a bunch of 13s. Again, right, read the market. If people are buying 13 and move it to 13.5, and that's definitely happened at Sharpbook or Pinnacle, that means they're saying that they think this team wins by more than 13 in order to cover that, which is, I don't know what they're making it, but let's just assume they're making it 14, you know, and we show that that's the 3% edge. I mean, that's a good enough edge. We get greedy. You're going to see a big change next season. Why don't we give out the one? I mean, we give them out to our board members. They have access if they want to bet this. Why aren't we betting the 1%, and the 2%, and the 3%? We got to show everybody we win. We went through hell last year, and we're still having to tell people, no, like, look what we actually can do. So we have to shove it in people's faces that our win rate at minus 110 odds is really high. But there is no reason you shouldn't be taking a 3% edge. There's no reason you shouldn't be taking a 0.5% edge, quite frankly. Expected value is expected value. The only difference is the number of games you need to bet in order to realize that gain. Right. If on average, if you find yourself with a 0.5% EV bet, that means that for every $100 you bet, you make 50 cents. Okay. Well, TikTok is not a reasonable place. They don't understand math. They don't even understand logic for the most part. So you have to overcome those things. So shout out. I know the people that are listening to this, these are probably the hardcore people that, listen to us and probably do a lot of their own, thinking and analytics, or are wanting to get intelligible bets down. Those are good bets. When we show our card, or when you go on the website and you see all the positive EV bets, the only reason we don't take the 4 is just so that we can establish our kind of win rate and our record, and like, hey, we can actually win, because the smaller that edge, the higher the variance can be around that. But we've seen a lot of success at the 3% and even at the 2% this season. So just to kind of caveat that, EV is EV.
Fins up. That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Fins up to that, baby. Shout out. So, yeah, I mean, obviously everything's picking up here on what the Dolphins do well and what the Titans can't do, frankly. So I struggling to see if, from a modeling standpoint, how this one will be a sweat in a little bit.
Defense is not bad. Like, you can see where the Fins defense is. You're like,
all you need is obviously kind of one fluke shit to happen, and then it's going to be tough to cover 14. But
they're laying 40 on teams. This is the Dolphins are like a college football team in the NFL.
Yeah,
you know what?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that too. I mean, we've seen this too. We've seen them go down, not just cover double-digit spread. I mean, we saw them go down against 14-0 against the Panthers in the first quarter, and they come back and win by 21. Like, there's ever a team that is built to not just cover double-digit spreads, but come back and then cover the double-digit spread, it's the Dolphins. So, yeah.
And they're having fun with it. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video. Like, they pre-planned and organized the roller coaster celebration. I mean, these guys are making, like, this is just not like all business. And quite frankly, now that they're in the number 1 spot, they're incentivized here to win this game. Winning this game is obviously different than covering the 12.5. But in order for the Fins to cover a game, what are we talking? We're talking, really, really efficient game on offense and a lot of deep balls. Tyreek, Waddle, even Mostert's having a hell of a season. So I don't know. This one feels like a good bet. Our feelings of the bet are kind of irrelevant, but I mean, the data just kind of jump out on the page here.
Yeah. And I gotta give credit, because I did not realize how, I don't know where they've been relatively all season, but where they are currently measured to be, number 5 in total EPA per pass and number 7 overall in defensive EPA per play allowed. So shout out, Fins up, baby, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to the efficiency landscape, just on the EPA per play, like, they're firmly in the quadrant of elite, which they're the number 1 team in the AFC.
Firmly.
Yeah, look at that offense.
Not quite defensively, but they're
not quadrant of elite,
trending in the right.
But
they're trending well, my friends. So, Okay, yeah, shout out. So that that does it for all the Week 14 predictions. So I feel as weird as I felt about last week. The only one that kind of gives me the yips this week is the Vikings one, but that's not for it's not for particularly modeling only reason. There's other like ancillary shit dancing around in my brain because of that one. But I feel, I mean, I think we mentioned it, the models clipping at a 58% rate. Hoping things keep rolling. I think there's another 3-1 record in our future. So feeling good about it, boys.
I'm on the hunt for that 9. It's San Francisco -9.5. I want it. I want it so bad. I will be screaming, like, I don't care, like, board member or not. I will be screaming from the mountaintops about taking 9.5, which kind of honestly is weird or contradictory of me, because it's going to go against like how much shit I was talking about. All those people saying there was so much value on the 49ers.
Oh, right.
I guess I want to be clear here. It's not that there's going to be more value than, like, it's not like it's some crazy bet or something, but it's just, if the market is dumb enough to do that, I want to shove it in their face. And maybe I'm the one that
As we
eats
should.
pie.
That's fine. I mean, but yeah, from a modeling and from a like a quantifiable value standpoint, you take that every day that ends in Y.
I want it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Give it to me. Please, market.
Yes.
You want my money. I want to give it to you.
All right, boys, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It's been another fun one. Again, December football is upon us. Lots of weird QB matchups this weekend, but lots of good value on the board. Hopefully, if you're a board member, you've locked it in with us. If you're not, definitely consider becoming one. You can check out all the details in the description below, or just head to our website at bullytheboard.com. So, all right, boys and girls, until next week, we're out.